Joining us now is Rhode Island Senator, member of the Judiciary Committee, Sheldon Whitehouse. He sat in on some of the testimony that's used to build this report. I should tell you that Senator Whitehouse is also a former prosecutor. He served as U.S. Attorney in Rhode Island. He was also the state's Attorney General, uniquely qualified to comment on these matters. Senator, it's a pleasure to see you tonight. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
So this is a lot of material. It's about a 50-page staff report. It's several hundred pages worth of transcripts. It's several hundred pages worth of exhibits. What do you think the public should understand is the most important thing that you and your colleagues have found thus far?
I think there are three really key takeaways from this. The first is a very simple one, and that is how deeply personally involved President Trump was in all of this. Meetings and phone calls and contacts, Oval Office. He was neck deep in this personally. So that would be point one. Point two would be how much of this scheme focused on Georgia. The letter was about Georgia. The schemes to maneuver U.S. Attorney Pack out of Georgia were obviously about Georgia. And it supplements whatever investigative materials the Fulton County DA Willis, is pulling together to look at Trump's efforts to subvert the election in Georgia. So it ties together into what could be a very interesting case in the Fulton County DA's office. And the last is, it's apparent in the transcript and in the statements, but it was even more important if you were in the room, more evident if you were in the room with District Attorney General, Acting Attorney General Rosen. These guys did not have much respect for Jeffrey Clark. This guy was kind of a nobody. He'd been put in to run the Environment Division for Trump, which obviously meant he was supposed to do nothing. Because of vacancies at the end of the term, he was only an acting Civil Division chief. And it's a little hard to imagine that he cooked this up on his own, or that he would tangle with Rosen and Donahue like this on his own. And he landed mighty quickly at a dark money shop called the New Civil Liberties Alliance. And I don't know who's paying him to be there, but I think there's a bigger story about what's behind this scheme. One school of thought is that this is an ambitious nobody who saw his moment and took a shot at it and got shot down by his peers. But an equally plausible scenario is that this guy was put up to it, that somebody drafted that complex letter involving areas of law in which he had no expertise for him to produce for Rosen and Donahue. And looking behind what took place at the Department of Justice, I think, is why this is only an interim report. We need to keep looking at those other elements.
And am I right, Senator, that Mr. Clark has refused requests to be interviewed thus far? He has obviously no transcript of an interview is released with him today. The committee is presumably still seeking his cooperation, his testimony, as well as all the White House documents you were not able to get thus far from the National Archives.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say about that under the committee rules right now, so I should probably just pass on that question. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
But
that's
obviously he's a person of interest. He's the central person in this saga. And at some point in the committee, before a grand jury, someplace, his testimony is going to be obtained.
Let me just ask you, Senator, there's a lot of focus on Mr. Clark and what he did. It was a sort of shocking revelation today when the materials came out that there has been a referral by the committee to the D.C. bar to look into Mr. Clark and whether he should potentially be disciplined as a lawyer for what he did here. I, though, as I explained in the intro, am struck by the fact that there were other senior Justice Department officials who were very willing to use the resources of the department to jump down these rabbit holes on Trump's behalf, up to and including the Deputy Attorney General, Mr. Donahue, and the Attorney General, Mr. Barr, all of whom told U.S. attorneys to chase this stuff down. Is that a problem for the Justice Department in an ongoing way? Is that a matter for the Inspector General? Is that potentially a matter for referral to bar associations?
Possibly. Not all that clear, to the extent that what they were doing was running down allegations of violations of federal law, then that's what the Department of Justice is there for. To the extent that it would be obvious to any sentient person that these were cockamamie allegations, to pursue them beyond the point where they were credible begins to take you outside of the scope of the protection of doing legitimate law enforcement investigations. In any event, there are a lot of Department of Justice policies about what you do when you're closing in on an investigation, when you're in that sensitive period around the elections and around the count. And I suspect they were pretty sloppy about all of this. And of course, last of all, there's the longstanding rules we've talked about before about contacts between the Department of Justice and the White House. And it appears a lot of this mischief may well have been done outside of the rules that allow contacts between the White House and the Department of Justice. So there's plenty of fodder for the IG and the Office of Professional Responsibility to look at. And even if the people have moved on, they can still do a report to see what preventive measures should be put into the department's procedures so this kind of stuff can't happen again. Yeah, that's exactly right. The U.S. Justice Department can never be used in this way again. The question is how we ensure accountability now and clarity now about what happened to make sure this was a mini attempted coup d'etat within the Department of Justice against the Attorney General. And it seems unlikely that this character, Jeffrey Clark, came up with this on his own.
Fascinating. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, member of the Judiciary Committee, former U.S. Attorney, former State Attorney General. Sir, thanks for being with us tonight. Much appreciated.